We are now watching as some altcoins are making significant moves in this market. We could see it just going off of my current screen right now. MYX up 265%. WorldCoin up 51+%. There's definitely some shallow gains around these altcoins as well. I mean, we could see some of them are up about 7.8%, 5.5%, 6% or so. But there is some outliers here, which we have to focus on. And then also even on the weekly, right? If we're looking at the weekly, there's some additional gainers here where we do see a few that are up like 20 to 30% plus. Again, we are still very early on in the altcoin phase of the cycle. So if your altcoin is not moving significantly right now in the last like 1 week or so, don't be too concerned. Don't be too worried at all. I do suspect that we will probably still see Ethereum and Bitcoin really bounce back in a big way here, which will start to lead the rest of the market. I mean, even on the monthly right now, it's still a sea of red out there for most altcoins with a few outliers like OKB, WLD, WorldCoin, Crow, even MYX as well. Pyth is up about 20+% as well. So again, there's just a few outliers here in the sea of red. So again, most altcoins right now will most likely be a little bit more boring until we start to see some pretty big moves on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, we did hear from Tom Lee earlier today, which kind of gave us an insight on a few things, which is telling us, hey, guess what? We should be pretty bullish for fourth quarter, which is something that I've been really kind of mentioning as well. I do think that the entire fourth quarter of this year is going to be very exciting. And towards the end of this year, I think almost everyone will be very happy with where we are at because the entire environment right now around the fourth quarter is telling us to be very bullish anyways. But before we really dive on into this video, I also want to bring up a big issue that just hit the space, and this is coming from the CTO at Ledger. There's a large-scale supply chain attack in progress. The NPM account of a reputable developer has been compromised. The affected packages have already been downloaded over 1 billion times, meaning the entire JavaScript ecosystem may be at risk. Now, this malicious payload works by silently swapping crypto addresses on the fly to steal funds. If you use a hardware wallet, pay attention to every transaction before signing and you're safe. If you don't use a hardware wallet, refrain from making any on-chain transactions for now. It's still very unclear whether the attacker is also stealing seeds from software wallets directly at this stage. So again, when we think about these types of attacks, it is a scary time in crypto. The amount of scams out there, the amount of malicious things like this that are out there as well, it is at all-time highs. This is why I keep trying to stress to everyone to lock in with some sort of premium custody, platform. And one of the biggest ones that I have tapped into is the premium custody account from ITrustCapital. I think that this is the best way to store your crypto in this space. It allows you to buy and sell crypto 24/7 within this premium custody account as well. It's a fully closed loop system, and they have some extremely low fees as well. This is institutional grade custody. If you guys do want to go and tap into this, maybe even learn more about it, I do have a link down in the description below, as well as in the comments below, where you could sign up utilizing my link. And if you deposit $1,000, they give you an additional $100 for free. So if you guys do want to go check this out, you guys are more than welcome to. I really do think that now is probably the best time to tap into some of these platforms because, again, the attacks out there, the malicious intent that these individuals have to really get your hard-earned money and your crypto, it's at all-time highs. So please make sure that you guys are protecting yourselves. But with that being said, let's dive on into a few things. Number one, we did get a big update from Congress. They have proposed a bill directing the Treasury to explore a strategic Bitcoin reserve and the U.S. digital asset stockpile. This is massive, especially considering the fact that it's not just about Bitcoin, right? We know that the asset stockpile includes XRP, it includes ADA, Solana, a few other altcoins as well, and yes, Ethereum. So I think that this is extremely bullish. Now, we have yet to hear anything else about this. I do think that this is probably going to lead us into, possibly next week on this, if we are going to hear anything on it, because again, this week is still kind of, we're already in progress on a few things. I think that the biggest thing right now that we're focused on is the Clarity Act, which is the market structure bill. That's going to be the biggest game changer around this space. I think everyone should be looking into that, really kind of studying that, and waiting patiently for any updates around it, because that's going to have the biggest impact on this space. Very similar to like the Genius Act, which we could already see the Genius Act working. It's in progress, right? Stablecoins are surging in value. I think that they continue to hit new all-time highs, and even the transfer volume is surging around stablecoins. We're almost at $4 trillion plus in just the last month. So, you know, it's pretty crazy to see, and that's why we're really kind of looking at what Congress is doing. We are also waiting patiently for any big updates around the Clarity Act, but this is definitely a big one. Now, on top of that, we did hear from Tom Lee regarding Bitcoin. He did say, just in, Fundstrat's Tom Lee on CNBC, Bitcoin can easily get to $200,000 before the year's end. Now, I do have Bitcoin open over here real quick. We are starting to recover in a big way here. But what's crazy about this is, if we're just going off of our current price of Bitcoin, if we are going to hit $200,000 by the end of this year, okay, I just want you guys to realize how bullish this is, not just for Bitcoin, but for the entire space. That is a 79.28% push to the upside. Just for reference, let's go all the way back here to October of last year. It's technically, you know, the end of August, right? We'll go off of the end of August. That's where the lowest point was. This was a 121% push. But most of the moves did not happen until November. This is where everyone started to pay attention. This was a 63.29% push on Bitcoin. If we have a 79% jump in value on Bitcoin, we go back to 2024 and see how altcoins traded towards the end of the year into 2025. Think about that, but on a bigger scale. And during a time where dominance is falling off a cliff. This will lead to one of the biggest alt seasons in history. This will cause the entire market to erupt. And Tom Lee believes that this is possible. Now, do I think that Bitcoin's going to go to $200,000? Well, let's listen closely to the video, and then I will give you guys my opinion.
Hey, Tom, Bitcoin, before we let you go, tell us what you think. We're at about $111,000. The upside, the downside from here?
Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies like Ethereum are super sensitive to monetary policy. So I think that September 17th is an important catalyst. Crypto typically does really well in the fourth quarter. So I think Bitcoin can easily get to 200,000 before year end. I know it's a big move. It's almost a double. But that's also going to be
a double from here. Let's just hold on. Let's just take a quick pause. A double from here. So everybody's listening to this. We're at $111,000, and you think we, by Christmas time, effectively, we could be at 200,000?
That's right. One of the reasons Bitcoin stalled this year is the Fed's been on pause for 9 months. That pause all year, if you look at an easing cycle, that's only happened 2 other times, in 1998 and 2024, where the Fed began to resume cuts in the fourth quarter in September. Equities do really well. As you know, crypto is beta to equity. So I think it's going to be a very strong fourth quarter. Small caps should also rally, like IWM, but that also is really bullish for Ethereum, which is highly linked to small caps.
And yeah, I mean, listen, if we are thinking about this logically, right, what he's telling us is exactly what happened back in 2024. Our first cut did not come until September of 2024. Guys, we already bottomed in August. September allowed us to have an additional higher low bottom, but then we got the cut in the middle of the month. The market kind of jumped a bit, nothing too crazy, but then we continued to see cuts. November was an additional cut followed by December, and after that, boom, the big boom in the market happened. And currently, you know, we're still trading higher than the highs going back to January, December. We are inching closer to that September 17th date where we do get the first official rate cut decision from the Fed that is looking probable for a positive rate cut. And if we're thinking about that, it's the same environment as 2024. Except I feel like it's even more bullish this time around because Bitcoin is hovering around $100 and almost $12,000. We did hit our recent low going into the beginning of September. You could technically look at this as that low going all the way back here into the beginning of September as well. And now it's looking as if we want to recover in a big way and start to break back out. We already have our higher low on this chart going all the way back here to June. We can make another additional higher low if we have to and if we will. But I do think that this is the low on Bitcoin that is going to hold. I think that we might have already have had our higher low here on Bitcoin, and we might just break out above 112.6K, get a daily candle close over this, and then recover violently back to 120K plus on Bitcoin. And during this time, we will definitely be looking into, Ethereum and even XRP. I think XRP right now should 100% be focused on because this chart looks absolutely primed for a much larger move. We're at $2.94. Trading volume is up significantly as well on the daily. If we're looking at this thing, trading volume is up 40+% on the daily, $6.2 billion. And it's starting to bounce back in a big way. And I do think that almost everyone should be paying attention to this right now currently because, looking at this, we are starting to create some higher lows and also even higher highs on the daily. And we started to break slightly to $3 earlier today. If we can reclaim, $3.08 and flip those highs going back to like roughly the end of August, I do think that that's going to also lead to a violent recovery on XRP. I think that we could easily see $4 plus being hit on XRP in a very short amount of time. Now, on top of that, right, we look at Ethereum. Ethereum also looks as though it's ready for a big bounce in the market. We might have, a slightly deeper sell-off here to retest this trend line, but I still think that Ethereum is on its way to a new all-time high. And I know that we already hit a new all-time high, but we didn't get a weekly close at it. We didn't get a daily close over it either. That's what I'm watching for with Ethereum. And during this entire time, by the way, if we're thinking about this all logically, others dominance, right? Others dominance is the altcoin market outside of the top 10. And this has been starting to bounce significantly since roughly the beginning, of June. And if we're looking at this, we are getting close to the first major key level of interest, which is flipping this key area going all the way back to 2023. This was the support of 2023 that allowed us to jump all the way into the beginning of 2024, causing altcoins to go crazy in the beginning of 2024. Most altcoins didn't even break back over those 2024 highs, even in January and December recently. So when we think about this, we're looking at this chart, we're watching this chart closely for this big flip, because if we could flip this, we will most likely retest this trend line. And if we could break over this, we will target those highs going all the way back to December and January, as well as the highs going all the way back to 2024, and then officially targeting those highs going back to 2021 into like the beginning of 2022, leading into the largest alt season that we've seen in history around crypto. And I do think that it all really begins with Bitcoin making that violent recovery. And if we're thinking about this $200,000 price prediction from Tom Lee, if that does hit, this entire space, including XRP, whatever we're thinking about, some like high price targets, yeah, think a little bit bigger, because if Bitcoin can manage to hit $200,000, the market cap to Bitcoin's ratio just by itself would be monstrous. That is going to include a ton of free floating liquidity that could float down into some of these other altcoins and even into Ethereum, causing a much larger rotation of capital, which will also cause a much larger move across the board for even XRP and additional altcoins. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely like, subscribe, set notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.